Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of Entertainment X. Yeah, I thought I'd just kind of give it a little more, a little more energy, a little more, a little more zestiness. Well, either way, enjoy.
Good morning, Vietnam!
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
To infinity and beyond!
Some people without brains do an awful lot of talking, don't they?
It's classified.
You talking to me?
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
I can't fly!
Expecto Patronum!
Entertainment X.
You never know what you're gonna get.
Hey guys, so this episode is with the Andréa Burns, and we cover a lot. We talk about her childhood dreams growing up in Miami. We discuss language in which you speak to yourself, her purpose, what keeps her going. I ask her a lot of really in-depth questions in terms of her soul, and she delivers. I mean, she gives me some really wonderful answers. So thank you, Andréa, for doing this, and I hope everyone listening enjoys. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back with another episode of Entertainment X, and today with me is the Andréa Burns. Andréa, thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for doing this.
Oh.
I think this is really exciting what you're up to, and I'm just thrilled to be a part of it.
Oh, it's nice. It's really nice. These curiosity conversations are striking up a lot of thoughts and feelings within people, and we'll see where we head today. It's beautiful outside. I just want to give everyone set the scene. We're in downtown Manhattan, and it is gorgeous
in the
outside
village.
today. So let's get right to it.
Okay.
Growing up in Miami,
Yes.
what were your theater dreams?
Oh my gosh. I had very specific theater dreams. I was introduced to movie musicals by my dad, who just loved them. And there was not any real kind of theater scene in Miami, but I just became really passionate about storytelling with music. I just thought, and it started with watching Fiddler on the Roof and Oklahoma and things
Right.
like that. But once and then I ended up going to a summer camp when I was 11 that sort of broke it all open for me. It was called French Woods. It's in existence to this day. My son goes there. It's like a beloved, it's my happiest place on earth.
Where is it?
With all due respect to Disney World. It's in the Catskills in Hancock, New York.
Oh,
and
okay.
It's beautiful on a lake and gorgeous, but they're just a bunch of kids making music and doing theater and dancing and telling stories and horseback riding and flying on trapezes and doing all sorts of amazing creative things.
We'll talk about, we're going to
Yes.
talk about this camp and relationships and what have you with that.
Yeah.
Growing up though, with your dad, was there a specific movie? Was there one or two movies or one that stood out in your mind that
Well, believe it or
was
not,
it all of them?
I would say like two major. West Side Story
Yeah.
was huge. I remember that was the first movie that I cried at, and I was like 6 years old, and I was like, I can't believe this movie actually made me cry.
Yeah.
So that, I just remember that being seminal as far as
Yeah.
a movie or a musical making me feel something. And then Damn Yankees, because I loved Gwen Verdon, and I thought she was just a genius, and I loved her comedy, and Ray Walston's also. And my dad is from the Borscht Belt Catskills, so like I think it really appealed to that sensibility, that sense of humor. So those were two biggies for me. But once I ended up going to summer camp, I had a great mentor there that introduced me to Stephen Sondheim, and then that obsession, those floodgates flew open, and it just became all about coming to New York and working with Stephen Sondheim and Harold Prince. That was like the dream of my life. And everything they wrote was genius, and everything they did was genius. And obviously I appreciated so many other composers and directors as well. But that was the crowning glory for me. I was like, I just want to come and make the kind of art these guys are making.
Right. Was that mentor just at the camp, or was this down in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you guys stayed in contact
Yes.
through the school year? Like you'd go back and would you?
Yes.
kinda
I mean, yes, his name is Bruce Sachs. I will send him to this podcast because he will appreciate it.
Bruce.
Shout out to Bruce. I mention him all the time. He is a brilliant pediatrician on the Upper East Side now. He was but was always a passionate musician, and he would musical direct the shows and was basically working at the camp while in medical school.
Wow.
And he had such a great passion for show music and singers, and he really just kind of took me under his wing. I mean, and he was a kid too. He was probably 21, 22 years old when I was 11. And
which is an adult.
Right? Exactly. But he would say, sing this, listen to this. And he really had such a hand in curating my tastes. And he was a great arranger as well. And so, yeah, he really, he showed me, he just sort of like shone a light on the kind of material that speaks to me, and I think really defines me as a singing actor now. I'm a teacher as well, as you know, and I never define myself as a musical theater performer. I consider myself a singing actor because probably of the people I idolized growing up, that's what they were to me. Elaine Stritch, Bernadette Peters, Patti LuPone, Mandy Patinkin, they were singing storytellers. Everything about them were actors first. They just happened to dance on this incredible medium of singing.
It's so interesting you say that because, and you're gonna hear me say that's so interesting a lot, because a lot of the top heavy hitters right now, it's still acting is most important. Singing is important. I'm not saying that anything is less important, but the emoting behind what's going on, it's not about the high note. It's about the emotions that drive you to the high note.
The high note should be in service to telling the story.
Yes.
And it's what the reason the composer puts a high note on the music, on the staff, is to convey a certain level of emotion or fight or commitment. And so it's your job to find out what has led to belting that F.
Yeah.
It's not about, let me just place this in my voice and make a pretty sound. You can do that, but it's just not going to move an audience in a way. There's a reason I think a very specific kind of animal is drawn to musical theater. We're really slaves to the story. I mean, maybe I don't speak for everyone, but I feel like that's something that is truly so important to us and why we get so obsessive even about it, because it's such a beautiful idea that you can want something so badly, you have to sing to the skies about it.
Yeah. I love that. What is it like? So what is it like for you after you hit that high note, or you sing that, you end that song with so much gravitas, so much power, and there's that breath between you finishing before the audience responds. What is that like for you?
What a great question. I mean, I think that's just a zone, and it's a beautiful, quiet space.
Yeah.
The audience response then turns it into another moment, and it becomes, and in a way, there's this, obviously as actors, we want that
oh yeah
response, but there's something sad about it too, because it means the moment is gone, and now we're into the appreciation of the moment, which for you as a performing artist, I don't know. I want to make sure I mean this. We love it, but at the same time, it's not about us. You have to make room for the audience to be able to stand in appreciation, to applaud in appreciation, because it's their chance to feel with you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's really thrilling because I feel more connected when I'm doing comedy and I feel them laughing, because then I'm like, right, we're doing this together. I'm tickling you and you're coming back at me going, I saw that. And that's like this beautiful dialogue with an audience. But I think of that moment about when you finish, it's a pause and a breath in the telling of the story. So it's beautiful for the affirmation that you've told the story well, but it's actually kind of sad, or it's an interruption of the actual flow.
It interrupts the
of storytelling.
Huh. That's great. That's great. I want to hop over to your parents.
Okay.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
What did they teach you about work ethic? Because
my
so for
goodness.
some people, before you answer this,
Yeah.
I gotta say, so I know Andrea because I studied at Stella Adler for what felt like 3 years, but it was 4 weeks, I think. Or
Yes,
it
a
was very short.
5-week
Very short.
musical theater intensive, capital I on the intensive.
Capital everything on the intensive, and your work ethic is so incredible. It's
Thank
so your commitment to conversation and to educating is so like shut up and listen, sit on the edge of your seat. She's gonna everything that you say is just like educating. So sorry to
Thanks.
now put you there.
No, it's all. Thank you. Wow.
I'm curious though, growing up and what have you with your parents, what did they teach you on that?
I only have one thing to say about my dad, who's an attorney. When I went to said camp, there's like defining moments, and my first, you audition for shows at the camp, and I was up for some leading roles and didn't get any of them, and ended up in the ensemble of How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. And I remember telling my dad, like, oh, I was up for this big part and I didn't get it. And I remember my father telling me, just work as hard as you can. You've shown them you're talented, but now show them how you show up, and just practice and be the best one at showing up. And I remember, I can remember him saying that to me now. And it's like, I did that, like I turned into Hermione Granger, I was like sitting right next to the piano, who happened to be played and music directed by this Dr. Bruce Sachs, who I'm telling you about.
Yeah.
So I think that may be why he took note of me as well. I just wanted to be, and I just loved it so much. There was nothing like that in my hometown of Miami. So I was like a sponge. I wanted to soak up every bit of knowledge I could. So that's what he told me. And, but I don't, if I were to attribute my work ethic now, I can't even say it's anything as noble as I have such a, devoted work ethic because I was trained that way. I really think so much of it has to do with passion. And you can't learn that, or I just love it so hard.
Yeah.
I think is what it comes down to it. And that's for better or for worse, I've been so lucky to be part of the development of new plays and musicals, and I lose sleep over that stuff, and I'll be in tears talking to a playwright or director about something that I feel needs to happen, and at times that can be embarrassing, but it's really just I just care so much. It's something that is so, I'm just so passionate about it, and even saying that sounds kind of like whatever. I don't like the way it sounds, but it is. It's laser-like defining for me when I get into a zone about storytelling and point of view and relationships and communication and showmanship. All that stuff is so exciting to me. I can nerd out and talk about it for hours, but I really, I can't get enough of it, which is probably why I go at it so hard. And that's why teaching is so delicious for me, because it's a chance to share my feelings and knowledge with people who are really hungry to, take part in it. And then, which is really thrilling, and then add it to their own particular gifts and interpretation of that, and getting to watch people work based on guidance that I've given them, but the happy alchemy that happens between myself and student, and then the student turns it into something even more spectacular than I could have imagined. So
What do you learn from students about yourself, or do you learn things from students as you go through teaching?
both things. First, I learn trust. Like I feel I can be very demanding of my students. Would you agree? I mean, yes. But because I
Answered
see
that so quickly.
No, but it's true. But it comes out of a real excitement. Like, come on, jump.
Do you care? Are you here? Let's go.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, come on, you can jump. We have a safety net here. Jump. It's safe. We've got you, but just jump. I know you're going to fly when you jump. You may not think you have wings. I see the wings. Jump. So I can be very demanding. When they jump and fly, that's like very moving to me. Like that's when I go, oh my God, I get profoundly humbled by their trust, but only after I see them do it. Like, I know it's going to work out, but then it always ends up being even more than I'd hoped. And that moves me so profoundly. So I learn about trust. I also remain a perpetual student. So, you know, I'm in a voice class or I'm in an acting class, and sometimes I'm getting a lot of feedback and I'm listening as a student, but also my little teacher hat is on going, whoa, this is a lot to process in one. Like, oh, I have to remember that when I'm giving so much feedback, this is, as a student, this is a lot to take in.
Like a dialogue going on.
I have like a double dialogue going
Yeah.
and going, okay, I have to remember that maybe, even though I'm very excited, I want to, you know, parse this out in more even doses, because as a student, I've got so much going on. I want the thing to be right. I'm working so hard. I've got my own dialogue as I'm trying so hard to be open and listening to the teacher who's guiding me, you know. Or I also say to myself, as I'm thinking, okay, what can I do next to improve it? What can I do next? I think, okay, just be quiet and listen, because that's the teacher's trying to give you something. You know that. You've been the teacher. So just be quiet and receive it, and know that it doesn't matter if you get it perfect the next time. It's just you need to receive the information. So I learn a lot by teaching. You know, they say like the best way to learn something is to teach it. And I
Yes.
believe that.
I had to think about that for a second. Yeah,
I believe that because you actually,
absolutely.
it's very easy to say, oh yeah, I know, right? About whatever. Oh yeah. I mean, the song should really serve the text, and yeah, I know.
Of course,
Obviously,
yeah.
I know. I mean, the objective, blah, blah, blah. You know, but when you actually have to spell that out for someone, how the text connects to what the character wants, connecting to how the composer expressed it on the page, when you have to really walk through that, I mean, sometimes I'm really dazzled myself. I'm sitting there working on a song and I say, oh my God, look what the writer did here that I wasn't even aware of, now that I'm spelling it out for students. So I'm always learning when I'm teaching.
Yeah. I had another question with that, and it just escaped my
sorry.
mind. No, this wasn't you. That was me. So I recall Stella Adler.
Yes.
You teaching us
Yeah.
the audition techniques class. I constantly say to people, I said it to you, that it's really a techniques class on life. I mean, how you enter the room, how you leave the room, it can apply to going in for that bank job. It can apply to so many things other than just auditioning.
You discovered my dirty little secret.
Oh,
Yes.
no. I'm
No,
on to you.
No, you are, but it is because really, you know, the class is really called Be a Person, you know, and own who you are. You know, I say own what you got and invite them to the party. Like you have to be comfortable with yourself in order for people to want to hire you and be comfortable with you. So, yeah, and I do think that applies to all areas of life.
And that comes from self-awareness and self-confidence that I think you also do a great job teaching your students in the room. And
Good,
there's one thing
thanks.
that comes to mind. You're welcome. One thing that comes to mind is you brought it up in the class. It was when you yeah someone,
Yes.
which we do when we're nervous. Maybe not even
Yes.
coming from an angered place but it's definitely coming from an insecure place, which is where a lot of these self-sabotaging actions come from. And you brought that up to me, and it's so interesting how often that happens.
We do it to protect ourselves. We do it to let you know, I'm not that stupid. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like it's just an utter defense mechanism. But if you break it down, what are you losing in order to put up this defensive wall that you think is somehow
Going to protect you.
Yeah, and somehow presenting you to the world as what, a know-it-all? Like you can't win anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think you get a note and a nervous person, myself included, will say, yeah. Like, I got it. Stop. What's the subtext of that? Stop talking. Stop giving me the note. Stop embarrassing
I'm perfect.
me.
I'll
I
be
know.
perfect for you.
I know
I
I
got it.
made a mistake. Stop repeating that I made a mistake. Stop elaborating the ways that I made the mistake. Stop saying the ways I can grow. Let me come up with it myself. I want to impress you. Please love me. You know?
Well, the job.
Right. It really is all about please love me. But meanwhile, you're getting a lot of valuable information, and the best thing you could do is just sit back and listen. And it's like Don Miguel Ruiz in the 4 Agreements says, right, that one of the 4 agreements is never take anything personally. It's one of the hardest things to do. But if you actually were to sort of relax your heart for a second while you're getting a note and say, this has actually nothing to do with whether you are good or not. This is a valuable piece of information that is coming at you by someone who cares about the end result. Be open. Listen.
If you're listening to this right now, stop this and play it back, because this applies to personal relationships.
Yes.
Business relationships.
Anything.
Everything.
Yes.
All of it.
Yes.
That's incredible. What you just said. Oh, that's it. That's it. And I've applied that in my own life, and it changes the way you have relationships. It changes relationships.
Well, think about it. We are what are we doing? Like this, using this yeah model again. I'm trying to control you so that I have a better experience. So why don't I just choose to have a better experience? I can't control you anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I keep saying yeah to you, there's no guarantee A, it's going to shut you up, or it's going to make me look better. And we both lose.
Yeah. Yes. We do. I know now. It's like
So-
you're hyper aware of it, but you're so right, because that's what we want. We want control. Everyone wants control. That's
Yeah.
the whole.
But
that's
why?
like to survive,
What? Or to prevent getting hurt.
to prevent getting hurt.
We don't want to get hurt. So we are just going to control everyone and everything in the solar system to make sure we don't get hurt. Is
Good
that
luck.
possible?
You could see people doing it, and they're not happy. It's not possible.
It is not possible. It's not possible. So yeah, I mean, that's the irony of it. Most of us are killing ourselves. Think about people on the, like with road rage, like what's getting fixed by them screaming and beeping? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Using the horn as a weapon. It's
but
nothing.
what is it doing?
Nothing.
Except upsetting the other driver, maybe. So how have you created what you want is peace and non-threatening situations on the road, and you've actually
Heightened it.
So it's very backwards.
How do you find the balance between making things happen and letting things happen?
Oh my God, that is hard. I am really, I think that is like an everyday question, and I try to tune in to my own sort of intuition and say, like, am I relaxed about this? Am I white knuckling this? Or am I relaxed about this? I guess the most basic way to put it is this, if I'm taking an action regarding making something happen in my career, and it can be sending an email to accepting a job or turning down a job or whatever it is. The big question is, am I making this decision out of love or out of fear?
That's a good question. Ask
That's the
yourself.
thing that you have to sort of check in with. And you'd be surprised, even though you're like, one would think, oh no, of course, I'm not making decisions out of fear. Like, I know. All of a sudden you start going, I think I'm doing this because I'm afraid. I'm trying to white knuckle this because I'm afraid if I don't do this, then XYZ, or am I just saying, oh, I want to make this project happen. I really want to collaborate with these people. This is exciting to me. Why not? And that's a fabulous, that's a good space to be. It's rare because we also don't allow ourselves. Marianne Williamson has this amazing quote about our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate, but that we're incredible beings. I'm paraphrasing, but she has a great thing that says, who are you not to be fabulous? Right?
Yeah.
Best example of that in the whole wide world is Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to talk about, he's kind of, you want to talk about like a mentor, he's someone obviously younger than I who he's been a mentor he just leads by example. He's never sat me down and talked to me about, you know what I mean? We've sat down and had conversations, but obviously it's not me saying, Lynn, how do I do this, or how can I be a more prolific creator? Or how should I? No. But I have watched him on his journey. And even now, sometimes I think, not only what would Lynn do, but if I said to Lynn, I'm thinking about doing this, should I do it? And I just picture him saying like, yeah, why wouldn't you? That sounds fun and amazing. Right?
yeah.
Those are the kind of decision. I feel like he's just such an incredible example of like follow your bliss for real.
Yeah. Trailblazing.
Yeah, but again, without the we call him trailblazing. He's just having a good time.
He's just living.
But he's just
Yeah.
no, but he's just having a blast. Like that, of course, he's smart and he's driven and all of these things, but to me, from my perspective, I don't think he's out there going, my mission is to change the world. I think he's going, I've just got to do what my heart tells me to do. And he's not so tied down by a lot of the, what if I'm not good enough? Who wants to hear my point of view? A lot of things that most of us feel. I'm sure he has it to a certain degree, but the joy leads first.
Making a decision out of love or fear.
Yes.
That's how we started this. And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I want to drive that point home. That's a great example. Yeah, Lynn's a great example. We
Yeah.
could talk about that for a while.
For sure.
There was her Instagram name is Badass Boz. I don't know her name isn't coming to me. She's like president of Beats Music, or was. She's hopped around. She started Spike Lee's assistant. It was on the Tim Ferriss show. She was interviewed on there.
Oh, cool.
She has this conversation with him about making lists, how we make a list, pros, cons.
Yes.
If you're making a list, you're either talking yourself into a bad idea or out of a good idea. And the spirit knows.
Fascinating.
The spirit knows, you're just convincing the mind. And it comes up when you said fear and love, because all things that are troubling you that we put off can be answered quite simply. The answer is right there in front of you.
It is.
It's
It
really,
is.
you don't need to ask anyone but yourself. It
That's
is
right.
right. Your heart, not your mind.
Yes.
It's right there.
Agreed.
It's
Agreed.
right there.
It is right there.
Do you have a favorite coincidence or one that stands out in your mind?
A favorite coincidence. I feel like I've had a lot of beautiful coincidences happen in my life, but I'm trying to think of what would be my favorite. I don't know, maybe that I couldn't get into NYU's acting program and now I teach there.
Hello.
You know what I mean? Like,
I do.
it's just kind of funny. Like, it's an important thing to mention because it all becomes about, we get defined by these moments of, oh, XYZ didn't think I was good enough to blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
When I was actually there to redefine the game once I got there,
Which is precisely what's going on.
Yeah.
Right
I
now.
mean, that really, yeah.
That's incredible because so many people hear Andréa Burns and they think, oh my God, she was so great, and like all your high points. And they have no idea what didn't happen to get you there.
Of course.
Because
And everybody
what
has
didn't-
those stories.
Everyone does. And that's why I love talking about it, because what didn't happen is what got you to where you are now and why he's paying you.
Yes. Yes. Well, my, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to turn gears a little bit here. West Side Story. You
Yeah.
toured Europe
Yes.
at 18
Yes.
playing.
Maria. Well,
Maria.
I started as Maria understudy and then I moved up.
What did you learn? What did you learn touring Europe about other cultures?
Well, first of all, it's just so important to be outside of the United States and preferably in a non-English speaking country, because you realize that there is not only are there other cultures and continents, the universe, space, the world is so
It's a
much
lot.
bigger than we think. And I grew up bilingual, and with a little conversational French too. So to have to start my first professional job in Germany where I knew nothing, somebody who felt like, she kind of has a lot of keys into different cultures. I was in one that I didn't know anything about that was incredibly difficult to learn. And I had to, learn conversational German to be living there all that time. And also, something that made a big impression on me then was walking around the city. I was in Berlin and seeing posters and ads for like movie stars and celebrities, and like movie posters of people I never saw before in my life. You know, people who are German stars, right? German celebrities. And it really gave me the perspective of, oh, so when I'm looking at a picture of Julia Roberts at home or Tom Cruise, like, it's really just a person who means nothing in another culture, right?
Yes. Right.
Right. We've been so programmed, like these are, and especially as Americans, you know, we don't have a monarchy or, you know, royalty. We're like, this is it. This is the highest form of America. We don't, obviously, you know, it's been so tumultuous, you know, with politics as well, to be able to have people to look up to, but lately, but we look up to our celebrities, our movie star. We've decided that they're these idealized humans and these fully realized gorgeous titans of, you know, who are they? And so I just remember looking at those posters thinking, that looks like a magazine cover. Everything about that is totally glamorous, and I've never seen that person in my life on the cover, so it doesn't mean anything. So that was like something that stuck with me.
That blew my mind. I went to and I bring this up almost every episode. I went to the Philippines for 2 months, 2 years ago, and to see that same thing, a celebrity. I mean, a celebrity. Now, most New Yorkers probably don't realize, but in Miss Saigon, the girl that I think originated Gigi in the revival here on Broadway, her name is Rachel Ann Go.
Okay.
She is a celebrity in the Philippines.
Cool.
Celebrity.
Right.
And she walks out of the show like, you know, no one paid much attention to her,
Right.
because, you know, it's New York City.
Yes.
And I saw her after the show, after seeing her there, you know, like living in that culture, like what people have to say about her,
Yes.
trying to sing karaoke songs the way she sings them. I mean, all of that. And then come back here and I'm like, there she is. And no one, it blows your mind. It makes
blows
you
your
realize
mind.
how big the world is,
Yes.
small you are, and how little, I mean, celebrities matter, but like how the weight that Americans put on them is like,
Well, and it's a machine. It's not, I think any celebrity will tell you they're not all the things, you know, it's the team and it's the illusion team behind them. And that's part of what we sign up for, and we enjoy the ride, but to actually take it seriously and more tragically be comparing ourselves to that is really dangerous.
detrimental to some, to a lot, to many. The things you see people doing to fit that. It's
Yes.
just, it's terrible. Okay, so my next question for you. I want to talk about you being you, because I notice a lot of top players in any field are very put together and I mean like personal brand, as in the way they conduct themselves, the way they hold themselves, down to the glasses they wear, the clothes they wear, all of it. It's just so succinct and just so put together. I don't know if I'm articulating that well enough.
Yeah. Cool.
So my question, and you are obviously someone I think who is great at that. You really figured out who you are and your gifts to the world, and all
Thank
of that.
you.
It all comes together. It's all tied together from that. Was there a time growing up or starting out in this career that you felt the urge or wanted to kind of be different than who you were in terms of type and casting? Because I know we try to fit these molds of shows.
Yes.
And then it's not only once you realize that, once you are your true self, that's when you'll, get the dough, get the honey,
That's the truth. That is the truth. I don't think I ever wanted to be someone else, but I didn't understand why people didn't see me. I didn't understand starting out why people, I would see a certain role or something that I felt like I could do, and I felt locked out sometimes. And that is on every level. It's not just, I was sort of ethnically ambiguous is really, people didn't really know what to do with me. I also happen to carry a certain amount of, I'm torn between the two words, weight and gravitas.
Meaning
something about my energy was tough to put into young lady roles when I was a soprano, because I would go in for all these. I have the soprano voice, and I would audition for My Fair Lady and Gigi and a lot of young women. And actually, you'll appreciate this. And Belle, at the time, when Beauty and the Beast came out, and Little Mermaid 2, these voices, Jodie Benson and Paige O'Hara, were all from, I thought, I called it like the Liz Calloway school of singing, which was this very clean, almost kind of pop soprano. And Liz Calloway was an enormous vocal hero of mine. And I tell her now in person, I'm like, you basically taught me how to sing, because I spent so much time listening to her recording a baby and just trying to emulate everything that she did. And so I felt like, oh, I have this in me. Why won't people see it? So it's not that I ever wanted to be like, I don't know, like I never wanted to have like blonde hair and be angular or all the things that I thought were, but I did want to be seen and was frustrated that I was, not. And so I kept thinking, well, what do I have to do to change about myself? Or why won't they see this in me? And I mean, I think that's a big conundrum in the beginning, especially for girls. This whole type, what's my type? I'm typed in, I'm typed out. So the best story I have about this is that at the time they were doing Beauty and the Beast had opened, and vocally I just was like, this is me. This is literally my voice, my singing style. I'm of age. I'm a smart brunette. Like, this is it. Like, I need to play Belle. And I couldn't get in even into like the agent submission. So I used to go to the open calls, and that they would line you up in a line and type you out right there. And I would always get typed out. And so I remember, shortly thereafter, around that time, I was doing Songs for a New World, which is a show I did off Broadway with Jason Robert Brown, who is a friend I met at Frenchwood's camp that I referred to before. And he's also been a great mentor of mine, to tell you the truth. We were friendly at camp, but we really became friends as adults. And certainly he also gave me a lot of my, I think he was always very frank in pointing out to me that I was not like everyone else and that was a good thing. And he, at one point, one of our famous stories is he said, you know what, you got to let it go. You're never going to be Belle in Beauty and the Beast. Like, that's not you. You're interesting. You're Latin. You're Jewish. You're funny. You've got all these other things going on. Like, don't worry about that. You're never going to be that. So why are you sweating that? So I remember him saying that. And then I ended up doing Songs for a New World, and in which I just sing all these different songs about different stages of womanhood. And because of that, I was called in for a private audition for Beauty and the Beast. I thought it was a regular audition, but when I went, it was only me and the whole creative team.
Wow.
And by the end of it, I was, I was understudying Belle on Broadway.
Wow.
And it was such a lesson to me because I couldn't get in there trying to be what they wanted. But once I was on a stage doing what I do, which was storytelling and collaborating with somebody who's, we also had such an incredible musical connection. I think Jason and I grew up surrounded by a lot of the same musical influences, inspired by a lot. And this Bruce Sachs, who was our musical director, also was a huge presence in Jason's life too. And so his writing really spoke to everything I wanted to do as a singer. And so when I'm on stage singing his stuff, it feels like home to me. It feels like the most natural thing in the world. So here I was doing the most natural thing in the world on stage, singing about mature issues about womanhood. I wasn't standing there with a little birdie on my finger, like in a Disney princess dress. I was a woman in this, and I was seen. And so suddenly someone said, oh, I see what that is. I'll put that in Belle in Beauty and the Beast. And that was a big realization. Jason jokes now. He's like, see, never take my advice. But I think he was right in the sense that I kept trying to play to type. I kept thinking, why won't they think I'm blank enough to do this? And when I just turned my focus elsewhere into something I was passionate about and just gave it my all and loved doing it, that part came to me. And that's what I try to share with my students. You know, even this whole idea of personal brand, we talk so much about branding, and that, you know, that worries me a little bit. I think it's important to know who you are, but if it becomes something that's outside of yourself that you're aspiring to match, now you're trying to be a cookie cutter version of something.
And not yourself.
Yeah. And by the way, my Broadway heroes and the people that I am obsessed with were so themselves. They were not, you know, I wasn't saying, oh, you know, she's such a young Angela Lansbury, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, there was nobody like Bernadette Peters, and she was weird, you know, and Mandy Patinkin was weird, and Ben Vereen was electric, and there was nobody like them. They were different.
Yeah.
And why, if that's the North Star, why am I trying to be like everybody else? You think it's a sound business decision to go, no, I just have to get to be XYZ. And I think the only branding you can do is to work as hard as you can, be a good collaborator, be a good person, and be true to what you have. Like, you know, don't obsess about becoming a great belter if you're an amazing soprano. Like, just work with what you have.
What is there a piece of advice you'd give a 20-year-old struggling with that right now? Or it would literally be what you just said?
I think so. I would say, look at what you have. Look at what are your strong suits.
Yeah.
And you've heard this before. Everything that's weird about you and working against you is the best thing about you.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And we'll get you.
And we'll get you.
What you
And
want.
also, like, time, give it time. My friend has a saying, more will be revealed. More will be revealed. You know, there was a time that was terrible to be, when I first came to New York and was auditioning for television, the fact that I was, quote unquote, ethnically ambiguous made me useless because no one could put me in a stereotypical Latina part, and nobody could just cast me. It was like, whatever. Now it's the most beautiful thing in the world because the world has opened up a little bit more, and the time I have put in, my body of work has stood up at least enough for people to say, I like what you're doing. Come over here and try this. And so I would look at where you know your strengths are, and keep doing that, and keep working wherever you can, and just try and do your best.
Yeah. And be your authentic self.
Which is like, again, capital A, capital S. That's really hard.
It is. And it's so cheesy. It's so cliche to say those things.
And yet, here's another example of the people who I think are the greatest successes are people being their authentic selves. Obviously, Lynn is an example of that. Another super example for me is Seth Rudetsky, who's one of my oldest friends. He is not doing anything on the radio, on tour, on cruises that he was not doing in my living room eating Chinese food when we were broke in the early 90s. He is just sharing his passion everywhere now. And he is so infectious. That love of what he does is so infectious that people follow him. People want to be around that. People want to be around anybody who's excited about anything. If he was talking about plants, people would probably follow him there because his enthusiasm, what was that? His enthusiasm is so great that you can't help but get caught up in it. And I have seen him, you know, talk about, you know, the best belt notes of Mac and Mabel to every kind of citizen under the sun, like way outside of the theater people realm. We used to do hospital shows for patients with AIDS, and that used to be a volunteer thing that we did together in the early 90s. And he had the prison ward was his particular assignment. So he would sit there and by the end and be talking, and we'd be singing, and by the end he'd have like a whole room of probably murderers and rapists singing No Time at All from Pippin and loving every minute of it. And because he was so he takes my breath away at how much he's his authentic self. He doesn't change for anybody. I've seen him in the fanciest of situations and in the roughest of situations. He is the exact same person. And it's inspiring. It's inspiring. But the reason I bring him up is he's just talking about what he loves all the time. That's his authentic self. He's not trying to be his authentic self. So I would say, what do you love? What gets you excited? The reason you and I are sitting right now across from each other is that you and I have a common interest in the evolution of the soul and the spirit, and how storytelling is a ministry in itself, and how we hope it can change the world, and how it can add value to our relationships and to, but we geek out about this. We love this. It's why we're sitting here together. So we are technically being our authentic selves right now, just because we like it. Do what you like.
Yeah.
You can't fake what you like.
Yeah, no, you can't. You cannot. And this brings up such a great point of, I hate to go back to it. No, I don't hate to go back to it. When we talk about the entering the room, but this is for any room that you enter,
Yes.
at an award ceremony, auditions, any kind of interview, coming in and being your authentic self and not turning on something you think someone wants you to see to try and make them like you.
Yes. Well, here's the thing that I've just a little mantra that I keep in my mind and I say to students, and this really is inspired by my husband, Peter Flynn, who is an incredible teacher and director. And he always says that theater is a service industry, right? It's like, how can you be of service? So the difference is walking into the room thinking, am I good enough? Do you like me enough? Or walking into the room and thinking, how can I help? If you walk in from a place of service, not servitude, not lesser than, but hey, I understand you're casting a project and you're looking for skilled, talented people to help you tell the story. Well, I'm one of those people. How can I help?
Yeah.
And they might say, oh, we have the thing that you'd be able to help me with, I have covered. And I say, great. Just wanted you to know I'm around. Bye. And that's really it. And I think about it, when you are being generous, I think that is really the most genuine expression of who you are, because you don't have an agenda. You're completely yourself in service to the other person, to the situation. You have nothing to lose.
Nothing.
So that's what I would say. I'd say, and I say to myself in times that I'm nervous too, to walk into a room and say, okay, but how can I help?
Yeah.
Then I'm just a game person who's in the room and available.
Yeah. You brought up a great point 4 years ago with entering the room as though you're going into like a kindergarten classroom instead of a because most walk into even any interview, and I keep saying this because it's not just about auditioning, it's any room where you walk and you're like, hi, excuse me, hi, or as opposed to walking and be like, hey guys, how we doing?
Yes.
That kind of thing.
Totally.
And it resonated true with me because it came down to, and you said this when you handed out those bracelets, it's stuff you never forget.
I love it.
Value, adding value to other people's lives.
Yes.
And when you come into the room, you're there to add value. What can I add value to? And when you come from that place, the rest is it just happens. Yes,
because otherwise we're looking at you to decide my value. And I mean, there's so many there's so much flawed thinking in that. There's so much circular backward thinking. And okay, so if I go in and hope you like me, does that mean I'm not valuable unless you like me? But I don't know the ways in which you like me. You might think I'm sexy and I want you to think I'm smart. You know what I mean? There's so many different, you can't get in people's heads and you can't control them. So the only way you add value is helping and putting yourself in the state of knowing you're enough to add value to the world.
Open, loving, kind.
Open, loving, kind, generous.
Yeah. Oh, such a good answer. We're going to turn gears here a little bit now, going over to Parade.
Awesome.
What did you learn about life and or yourself from playing Lucille?
Well, I will go on the record as saying it's one of my favorite roles I've ever gotten to play. It was an incredible experience and made doubly, triply incredible by the fact that Jason Robert Brown actually conducted the orchestra on that tour. And obviously not only is it a thrill to be conducted by the composer, but of course we go back to playing Mr. and Mrs. McAfee and Bye Bye Birdie in 1982 when we were 11 and 12 years old. And here we are sort of living the dream and realizing it together. And that was so magical for us. I think what I realized the most, I learned more off stage at the stage door than I did, I don't know more, but the thing that stayed with me so much. We opened in Atlanta, you know, and where it takes place. And the stage door became a confessional for people who had been raised with the myth that Leo Frank was the boogeyman and that Leo Frank was an evil Jew who pedophile and all these things. And they were so moved by this story that they basically would come to us, sometimes in tears, to say, I'm sorry, I believed these things my whole life. I never knew. I didn't know. I've spread this lie. That was really, and looking for some kind of absolution, which of course as an actor I have no right to give, but just sort of holding the place for, you know, I'm just like a placeholder, like a spirit holder. It's like I'll stand here and be, you know, I'll stand in the Lucille shoes. I have no right to. I'm just an actor, but it's a privilege to accept your humility.
Yeah.
Redemption. You know, I certainly am not qualified to give it, but it was really a privilege to. So I think that's really what, you know, and I think that's what moves me so much about doing what we do. I played Diana in Next to Normal also, and that was another stage door scenario where so many people would come up to me who were either dealing with a relative who was bipolar or, you know, were going through this in their own home. And you realize what a ministry it kind of is. I mean, you know, maybe I'm too nerdy about it, but it's a ministry to be somebody who is willing to go out there and hold the story to the light and live it so that others can, who are not necessarily prone to self-expression in that way, it's like, okay, I'll do it for you so that you can have the release. You might be a person who is not, you know, not everybody is an outspoken, feely. You might be somebody who is, you know, keeps their feelings very suppressed, who, whatever, for whatever reason, genetically or the way you were raised, but you can go to the theater and I'll live it so that you can, so it can move through you and you can move on. It's like it's like being a channel of some kind, which in a way is my prayer before I go on stage every night. Please let me be a channel of your light. Please. Let me just be a clear, open channel that this story may be told, that I may be as out of the way as possible, that my ego is not in the middle of clouding this up, that I can, especially when you're doing things like Parade, like the story of a true person. Oh my God. The burden of that, the humility of that. You're like, this really isn't me. I'm the walking, talking, physical embodiment, hopefully, of this person's story. And Andréa Burns really has no place here. I'm just the mouthpiece and the vessel for.
Vessel.
Yes. I'm pregnant with the story for 2 hours and I'm here to do it and both midwife it and give birth to it for you so that it can pull up something in you that you are ready to release.
Oh, that's incredible. Because I thoroughly believe we are spiritual beings having a human experience,
Right.
and theater heightens that.
I mean-
you literally just, you're not even, it's not your story. It's your story for 2 hours, and you're telling it. You're just a vessel. I'm literally echoing what you just said, and it's so incredible how it reaches so many audience members. By the end of it, what they can feel and be moved to think that they didn't think beforehand. I thought that was really incredible about Saigon as well. There's stories that you just don't realize the other person's side
Yes.
until you sit down and you watch it.
There's, I was just
No,
going to say,
yeah.
there's stories you don't know as an actor. You say, oh, well, I would never feel that way. And then you get into the shoes of the character and you find that you feel completely different. Once you're in, what I call the uncomfortable shoes, something I say a lot in class, like we sit in an audience and we love, let's say Next to Normal, let's say, oh God, when she sings, you don't know, and she's just rocking out, and oh my God, it just must be such a thrill to just be up there, like playing Diana and just like living your best life and belting it out. And you get up there wanting to feel those as an audience member. If it's a role that you've actually seen before or listened to, you go up there wanting to feel that rush you felt as an audience member, but it is no longer yours to feel. What you have to do is bear the pain of the uncomfortable shoes so that your audience can feel it. You don't get all the feels anymore. You are now out of the equation for that. And that is something, I got one of my dream roles of all time was to play Dot in Sunday in the Park with George. It was a seminal show in my life. I saw it when I was 14. I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I would, it's like my little 14-year-old emo self. I would listen to We Do Not Belong Together and just cry and be like, oh my God, these chords, this is life. And getting to do that production, it was really, and Dot and Bernadette, and so charming, so funny, and so brilliant. And it was so painful to be Dot, to not be seen, to want to be loved, to exist in a world that was not accepting of me. All these things that I really didn't feel like feeling. I just wanted to be living my best Bernadette life, but you don't get to feel that. You actually then have to come in. And of course, that's what makes it your own. That's my Dot, right?
Yeah.
And you that's a beautiful thing that happens accidentally to actors too. A lot of times we have to play people that we may not like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then once we're in and we're looking at ourselves in relation to the people around us, we suddenly see exactly why. We're like, why doesn't everybody see the world like this character does? It's a beautiful thing to try on somebody else's skin.
So how do you stay in the light in this polarized world of darkness and light?
Well, I will say the greatest source of light in my life is my family. I was lucky to have an amazing, very affectionate, loving, warm set of parents, which led me to seek a very affectionate, loving, warm, like-minded partner in life. And I have a son, a teenager, who I think the fact that I chose somebody who loves the same things that I love has set up a home of, I think we're just grateful every day that we're here getting to do what we love. And so I can now say with my 14-year-old has grown up around that. So he has such an appreciation of that.
He really does.
So
You can feel it when
yeah,
you meet him.
he does. But I think it's, the big thing, that the big parenting lesson, which is just so, the old school adage, do what I say, not what I do,
Yeah, yeah.
But really the biggest parenting lesson is they model everything you do. There's no amount of things that you could say that would have a bigger impact than who you are around them.
Yeah.
And that's thrilling and devastating at the same time, because I'm my best self and my worst self around my kid, but for the most part, I think based on, I'm really lucky. I have such a great, my relationship is very joyful, And I think it's because we share a passion and surround ourselves with really interesting, collaborative, brilliant people. And we've given up like a big giant house and a, picket fence and 2 dogs and all of that in order to be in the center of culture because it feeds us so much. So I would say, when you say, where do you find your light? It really is in the presence of my 2 boys, because it's a joyful home. And what I would say, but that actually that's a natural extension of when I first moved here. I found my first partner, my first roommate. It's all about finding especially in New York, finding your family. So Devin and Janky, the choreographer, was my first roommate in New York.
He was
and he was my first family. He was the person who, we were each other's dates to things. We were the one who was waiting up for the other one after a day of auditioning or waiting tables or whatever stressful thing. It's always been very important for me to have my people. Seth Rudetsky is another person who has been like one of my people, who, when I said, I don't, I'm working on something. I don't know if it's funny. I think it's funny. Will you come over? Can I do it for you? What's your feedback on this? For me, it's all about the people. Like,
it's who you surround yourself with.
It's who you surround yourself with. It's the fact that you and I can have a conversation, that you can teach a class and be drawn to like-minded people. I'm at an age now where I start to think, like, what is it like for people who live, in Montana with like big homes and beautiful sky all the time,
2 or
and
3 cars.
Yeah, and just like a life.
Yeah.
A much easier, let's say, or a simpler life. But my first thought about that is like, where would my people be? There's an embarrassment of riches, of creative, generous, thrilling, exhilarating, warm people in my life. But I've cultivated that with great care, because that is the thing that keeps me going. That is how I find my light. If I'm getting down, I realize that I've probably been spending too much time by myself, even though I love my privacy and I love I like to meditate. I like to write in my journal. I like to read. There's that as well. But if I start going to the dark place, I think, I should probably get out.
Take a walk.
Right. Or if I or suddenly I'm feeling like not so great about things, and I'll get a call from a friend. Oh, you want to meet me for coffee? Sure, whatever. I got nothing else to do. And by the end of it, I'm flying high.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow, it's really just about, I feed so much off of the energy of other people, other creative people.
Yeah. Like cultivating that circle, having the right people around you, right for you. How do you decide when it's time to maybe work your way away from certain people, or to, I don't want to say cut them out or cut them off, but when you have that realization of like, everyone's great, everyone's a good person, but it's like, this isn't working. What is there a deciding factor for you? Or is it kind of just the signs are so loud it's obvious?
I think it's an energetic thing. Yes, I think there's just certain behavior maybe that I start to go, oh, like little red flags come up, and I think this person is troubled in a way that I'm not sure I can help. And I don't know. That sounds really like, actually, I hate that's because it sounds like, oh, I can help you.
But as humans, we want to help each other. Like by nature, we all want to do good.
I think it's really just comes down to like a vibe. It's not even certain people that I'm like, oh, I'm cutting them out or I want to stay away from. There's just people that I fall in love with very easily. And so I just gravitate towards those.
That's you bringing up a good point because they give you so much energy. And I heard this from Nakia Peterkin. She was my first episode. The other day, she said to me, we're just talking to each other and we said bye to each other. She's great. And we're saying bye. And she said to me, and I say, I love you, send the hearts and everything. And she says, the last thing she says to me is, don't let anyone steal your energy. And I was like, oh my God. How often do we allow that? And for how long do we allow that until we're like, listen, there's nothing wrong with you, but you steal my energy.
Yes. And by the way, we're all, as Americans right now, there's a big, energy suck happening nationwide that we think we're in. Yes. That I think all of us on either side think we're feeding ourselves, but no, we're giving all of our energy, particularly negative. We're putting all of our energy.
That's why I don't watch the news really anymore.
I don't watch the news either.
It's designed to instill fear.
Yes, I only read it because even tones of voice, I don't like it. I don't like the repetition. I don't like the tone. I'm too sensitive a being to not be affected by that.
Yeah.
And I'm highly aware of how manipulative it is. And so, my husband and I just read it. We don't watch it. Or else we, if we want to, we delight and indulge in the sending up of it in Colbert and Seth Meyers and Trevor Noah, so that we are, somehow making light of it is helping us to look at it in a way that is not.
And to cope and to prevent us from going to that white knuckle place. But I think we are not the first people to wage war over different opinions. This has been going on for gajillions of years. And this young little country is having a super big tantrum and thinking, we're the only ones to ever have had one. It's definitely going through a time of change. It's awakening a lot in people. The other thing that is very healthy to do, that I aspire to do and try to do more of, is like pull back. When you're in the center of a problem, it's so bad. You pull back. If you think, more will be revealed, give it time. What does this mean in the bigger scope of things? So many people, obviously, in New York especially, are so in such a rage that Donald Trump is president. And yet that has been the catalyst for so much awakening, so much showing up in citizenship of the American people, that let's just back up a second. Yeah. Let's not just make it about the players. Let's talk about the cosmic consciousness that is moving all things in a direction for the evolution of humankind. For the evolution.
You know what I mean? Like, all of these things are happening. People are feeling so cornered or imprisoned that people are speaking out. I think it's amazing. I thought the Oscars was one of the most inspiring, is the best Oscars show I've ever seen. And I didn't feel it was, I have felt sometimes that they make an effort to look inclusive. I didn't feel it was like cute like that or trying to be anything.
Like put on,
I didn't feel that. I feel that they now know, the producers of that show, Jimmy Kimmel, whoever was involved in putting it together, know that we can smell the fake a mile away now. Like, time's up in that respect too.
Yeah.
So
I wonder who produced that. Was that Craig, the guys who produced
Craig Zadan? And it could be.
Yeah, because they do the Oscar.
We'll have to look it up.
Sound of Music live.
Yeah. Yes.
Those are those two guys.
Right. Yeah. And it's a more woke world.
Yes.
It's a world in which Get Out is nominated for Best Picture. It's a world in which we are celebrating, not marginalizing and not tokenizing, if that's a word, Latino creative artists. It's a world in which it's like, even past the Golden Globes, all the women were wearing black for the Me Too. It's like past that already. It's like, this is not a movement. This is now a new normal. I felt that was the message. Maybe that was a bit Pollyanna of me, but that's how I felt. I was deeply inspired by it.
No, you're bringing up a really great point because I didn't watch a lot of it, but I could even just see from images that what was it? The Academy Awards were previous. The Time's Up with that last award ceremony. Was that the Academy?
That was the Golden
The
Globes.
Golden Globes.
Right.
That was everyone was in black, and it was like a funeral. And this one felt like a birth, new life, a spring. Even down to the I want to say costumes, but the outfits that were worn were very color. It was just vibrant.
It was
a
vibrant
vibrancy to it.
Absolutely. And there was just ownership, and they covered everything. There was no, there was diversity on all ends. You had some of our superstar, legendary performers. I mean, ageism also was addressed. Jane Fonda was up there, and Helen Mirren, and Rita Moreno, and all of these people. And oh my God, Eva Marie Saint showing her clip from On the Waterfront, and then coming out to the 90th Annual Academy Awards and saying, I just realized I'm older than the Academy. And just being vibrant and incredible. So I just don't know. I think there was a world before where we just sort of wheeled them out and, pointed to the older people and said, yeah, thanks. But I don't know. There was just a bit of hypocrisy about it that now I feel it's a breath of fresh air.
It's absolutely lovely. And you brought up a good point about taking a step back. Stepping back, realizing, being aware, soft focus, understanding a situation instead of reacting to it.
Yes.
That's a really great piece of tactical advice for anyone who's going through troubles. I don't want to say a fight, but fights can come from those troubles and what have you. Instead of just reacting to it, stepping back, realizing, being aware, being self-aware, being aware of what the other person is trying to say. Because how often we're having a fight and you're like, you're not hearing me, and we're talking. You're actually talking because it's like we can hear each other. So that's a really great point you brought up, and I wanted to touch back on that. Who are you when you're at your best?
I am love when I'm at my best. I'm just, everything around me turns me on. I feel like the well of ways I could contribute never runs dry. I mean, this is, it's my life's journey to see how to make those moments last. But when I'm at my best, that is unmistakable. I just feel like there's not enough in the world I can't give. I have so much to give, and I'm so willing to give it, and I'm so grateful. Grateful.
In life, what's most important to you?
Seeing one another and being seen.
Being seen, yeah.
But truly being seen, not being respected or admired, or I think that would be the most, I'm not sure. I've just said that, but I think I'm going to change my answer, which is the most important to me in life is growth. That's the most important thing to me in life is growth, is evolving. Progress, process and progress, not perfection. And that is the biggest minefield, I think, of the creative artist. We all have a dash of perfectionism, and we want everything to be, especially artists of the musical theater, because we want to be fire and music and veracity and electricity, but we have to do it on pitch or on point. And that is a lot. That's very demanding. And there's a lot of conceit of perfection is what I'm trying to say. There's just, there's only one. You hit the note or you don't, right?
Yeah.
But I forgot the question. The question was, what's the most important thing to you in life?
Yeah.
Yes, I would say to continue evolving to become your highest self.
Great. I love that. Have you found your purpose? Are you still looking for it? Is there
What is your purpose? I think your purpose is to be in a state of love and be the best person that you are, that you can be, whatever you're doing. So
Can you repeat that?
I think your purpose is to be in the highest state of love and generosity and turned onness
Yeah.
in whatever you're doing.
Okay. I wanted to internalize that properly.
So
I heard that. I was like, it's a great
it
answer.
could be
What was
singing
that?
on stage and it could be washing the dishes.
It could
I
be
think
anything. Yeah.
that's the goal. That's the purpose, is who are you with this time you've been given?
Yeah.
And a lot of us are wasting the time waiting for the good thing to happen to us. And the miracle is happening. It's right now. It's the days are passing. We all have birthdays. They don't stop. People's parents get older. We keep seeing it over and over, and yet we're not convinced that this time is a gift
Every day.
every day. And because we see it in the everyday, it's hard for us to see, but we have to pull back.
Yeah.
But I think that it's what we're here to do. It's like, how can you fly so high in whatever you are doing?
Yeah.
That would be the goal.
Like this. That's like the secret to success.
And you felt
Anything.
it, but everyone's felt it.
Yeah.
Like, it's the feeling when you organize your sock drawer and you're like, oh, damn, that felt good. Like,
I killed
you
that.
felt it.
That
Or
was
yeah, I
great,
killed
yeah.
that cup of coffee. I made a really good cup of coffee.
Yeah.
It's not like we've never felt joy, gratitude, excitement
Mm-hmm.
over something mundane that we've done, but just happened to be really present and joyful while we did it. We've all felt it.
Mm.
So why can't we make that the norm?
Yes. And I heard this. I did hear this from Tony Robbins. One of the biggest lies in life is that achievement is more important than fulfillment.
Right.
And what you just said, I mean, I've been fulfilled organizing my closet.
Right.
And it's not achievement. I mean, it's an achievement.
Right.
But it's the fulfillment of it is what fills me up. The
Right.
cup runneth over kind of thing.
And you can be a person who is awarded the highest honor, and if you're sitting in your seat feeling like a charlatan and full of self-hate, what worth does it have?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I do. I know exactly.
It's like
what
we
you
think,
mean.
oh no, when we get the thing, we're going to feel. We've also all felt the thing. Oh, when I get on Broadway, I'll feel X. Oh, when this happens, I'll feel Y.
Yeah.
That's really not true.
Yeah.
You have to feel. How could you control all the circumstances in the universe anyway to make you feel a certain way?
Yeah. That's so true. And so funny because I feel like you've just answered the following 3 questions. I'm going to read them and
All right,
we'll go
let's
through
hear
it
it.
together.
Okay,
We'll see
cool.
if we answered them.
Awesome.
How do you stay focused when you lose your focus, get back on track?
Sometimes it's just do it.
Yeah.
I can go down a rabbit hole of thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh,
Do's
yeah.
and maybe no, but if I do this, but then that, but then this, but then that. And sometimes it's like, just get up, make the bed, do it.
Just do
Just
it.
do the thing.
Yeah.
Just get dressed, just put some makeup on, walk out the door.
Stop thinking about it.
Stop thinking about it
Yep.
and just do it.
I love that. How do you deal with the fear of the unknown? Or not always knowing the answers?
I remind myself that I worship presence. You know what I mean? I'm a person
do.
on stage. Like
Yeah.
I'm someone who worships a great. I'm somebody who has a great appreciation for a great orator, a great actor, a great minister. That kind of presence to me is like one of the most. It's the holiest thing. So I say, why don't I just be present? Because that has all the gold in it anyway, even though I don't see it.
Yeah.
It's your heart knows that. Your mind thinks, no, I have to worry about the future.
Uh-huh.
But I just
But
try.
the spirit always knows.
The spirit always knows. And
Yeah.
actually, so to answer the other question, I do journal. It's not regularly. Sometimes I like to do it in the morning, but I do sit and pull the pen out. And something I've changed in my writing practice has been, it used to be that I would list all my complaints because I don't know. I just was like, oh, this is the way I get it all out. But then I started realizing that I'm just, I'm repeating it and,
Putting more energy.
I'm not
into
sure
it,
where I
yeah.
heard this, but a thought is, a belief is a thought you keep thinking over and over again.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It may even be Tony Robbins, but
Yeah.
you keep thinking that thought, and then you've said it enough times that you believe it.
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, then why am I always writing about my problems?
They're becoming my beliefs.
They're becoming my beliefs. This is like, I'm really believing in this. So it's like
Yeah.
a little flip of a switch, and it takes a little discipline and there's always a voice that sits on my shoulder and goes, oh, what are you going to be like, Pollyanna? Like everything in your journal is going to be like little flower sunshine.
Rainbows and
you know?
sunshine, yeah.
Right. But then I just think like, no, like what would the higher self say to me? I do that. And I say, okay, and sometimes I need help. Like, I'll pull out a affirmation book and I'll copy some down so I can start getting the juices flowing.
Yeah.
But I'll start looking at it and saying, okay, you know what you're doing now? You're doing this. You've got this. All you have to do is get centered or whatever. And then I start writing, and I really feel better when it's over. And I'm much more prone to positive action once I've almost like paved it out in the writing. I've gotten in the zone in the writing.
Yeah.
But it definitely, it's a flip of a switch. It's about paving the future and not getting caught up in the past, right? It's about going, not saying, I feel like this and this sucks because this didn't happen and this doesn't happen. I still want this to happen and I need that. No, this is, I know where I am.
Yeah.
I know what I want. I've been blessed. Oh my God, so much. That's the other thing that I do is like remind myself, like, how blessed has your life been? Like it's very easy to go,
Hashtag
but,
blessed.
right? No. But also like, it's very easy to go like hashtag Murphy's Law, hashtag bummer, hashtag this always happens.
Yeah.
And not like, I'm so grateful for the present moment, that gets hard. But when you start looking at your life and saying, oh, like for me, I had an amazing set of parents. I had a happy childhood, or despite this happened. I know you have a favorite failure thing in your,
You can answer it now.
okay, in your set of questions. But like for me, like I went to a performing arts high school and I went to this summer camp. I mean, basically at 11, it was like game on. I'm coming to New York.
You put the
on
the face.
the war
You're
paint.
like, let's go.
I'm like ready to go.
Yeah.
Like a missile.
Yeah.
For reals. And seriously, just taking myself entirely too seriously. So I auditioned for like all of the acting programs of all the best schools, and I know the ones that are going to be the perfect fit for me, and blah, 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 blah. And one by one, I got rejected from pretty much all the schools I applied to. NYU, my theater teacher famously said, she had a crazy accent, don't apply to NYU. It's safe for you. It's a waste of time. When I was rejected from all of them, I went literally banging on the door saying, can you see me? I will audition for you. I need to get into a school. I didn't get into Tisch either.
All right.
So I was so devastated. There was never a more like learning seeking missile for theater than me. I just was like, all I want is a 4-year intensive of doing this. Nobody will have me. And I was incredibly frustrated. And I ended up at the Boston Conservatory, which was useful to me, but not ultimate. I wanted to be in New York, and I knew the kind of teachers I wanted to be surrounded by. And so I transferred here to NYU, and immediately, and I transferred to NYU, not in the theater school. I didn't get into the theater school. So I decided to do this kind of liberal arts, make your own curriculum thing called the Gallatin Division, which I did. And in the middle of it, I saw that I picked up a backstage, and I saw that you could actually, as a non-professional, go out on a professional audition. And oh my God, like that's amazing. They just let you in.
That's it.
And I went in and got cast in this European tour of West Side Story, had to pull out of school. Subsequently went out there as the Maria understudy, then came back, temped for a while. Then they called again. Will you take over the role of Maria? I was out there the last time, and I went back and forth, basically what would have been my college years. I was playing Maria in West Side Story. And the very last time I was out there, the Tony that I had been working with left, and they brought a new man into the role, and it was Peter Flynn, who became my husband. So
life happens for you.
And we have
Oh my.
Now there is an incredible, creative, generous, warm, beautiful soul walking around in the planet, my 14-year-old son, who is only here because I didn't get into the schools I wanted to get into.
Wow.
And he's the greatest teacher he's the best teacher I have on every level. How to be a human, how to be a listener, how to be a better performer, because your kid knows if you're lying on stage. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
He tells you after the show.
Well, they just know you. I mean, he actually has a really calming effect on me when I'm on stage. But
Yeah.
because I think he just has always known me to be somebody doing what I love. But
Yeah.
that's my favorite failure. Like, there is a person who is creating new works and life and is part of the evolution of the planet, because I didn't get into all the schools, not my top school,
All of them.
all the schools. And then subsequently I teach it, the one I didn't get into. So, and what does it all mean? Nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it all, the only thing that means anything is that I love the people I share my life with, and I want to create from the most generous place possible. That's it. Preferably with like-minded humans and artists. Human artists.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. What a story. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You learned something new. Okay. Wow. I don't know if we can top that. So we're gonna just being honest.
Cool.
We're gonna work our way to the end here. I just have a few more questions for you before we wrap up. Favorite failure was great. Do you have is there a common piece of incorrect advice that you hear often in your field?
I think it would just be anything that says, can you be more this? Can you be more that?
Away from who you are, kind of thing?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess incorrect advice in my field. I guess that would be one thing, but
Yeah.
as a teacher, I am mildly concerned about the focus put on branding and type.
Okay.
Because I just don't think you should encourage anybody to be anybody else.
Yeah.
And it's okay to have people who are your North Stars and who inspire you and whose superpowers you steal. That's a Lin-Manuel Miranda thing. He's like, steal your favorite superpowers,
Yeah.
And all of that is good, but you don't ever want to be smoothing all of your edges out in order to be
Fit
more
in.
palatable and fit in, because the people we're humans. We go to the theater to see human beings. I don't want to see even you can talk about the most glamorous, gorgeous, even Hollywood celebrity, where they're always telling a story of facing failure and rising above. We're all there just watching ourselves, and what's really beautiful is we're starting to see like more humans on stage and on screen again. I mean, Frances McDormand, who is such a formidable, incredibly human, I would think self-described as non-glamorous Hollywood actor, is leading by example. This is who I am. This is what I do. I'm really good for it, and there's room for me.
Yeah.
Here.
And there'll always be room for you, anyone.
Yes.
What advice would you give a young 20-year-old on rejection?
More will be revealed. Just if you love it, keep going. And don't just necessarily you're a different generation. Don't just keep going to auditions. Create your own work. Do what you're passionate about. I love that you're doing this podcast. I love that it speaks to who you are. And everybody now is a hyphenate. I think people in the long age-old history of wanting to put people in boxes used to be like, I'm a singer, I'm a dancer, I'm an actor. Right? I can't be a director and an actor. Well, Joe Mantello has broken that wide open. Look at what Rachel Bloom is doing with Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Look what Lin-Manuel is doing. Look what, everybody is a actor, writer, producer, photographer, podcaster. A creative spirit is a creative spirit. And don't rely on other people to give you permission to practice your creativity.
That's incredible. I don't think there's another question I need to ask. I don't. You've literally answered.
I mean,
it's amazing how it all ties together, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes down to these. We've repeated a few themes here over this 2-hour
Yes.
conversation. That it comes down to these things. Don't ever wait for someone to give you permission.
No, and actually, Elizabeth Gilbert has this amazing book, Big Magic, and she has a really interesting point of view that I just want to say about it. She is obviously the author of Eat, Pray, Love, and some other wonderful books, but Big Magic is really just a incredible sort of Valentine to creativity. And she talks about the fact that she made a contract with herself as a teenager that she would never rely on writing to pay the bills because she held her writing so sacred that she just didn't want to muddy it up with that. And that was such a new concept to me. That was so beautiful to me. And so I guess what I'm saying is, it's okay if you want to be creative and no one is giving you the creative job, but you also have to eat. All right. So work it wherever you need to, work at Starbucks, work wherever you need to know that you can pay the bills so that you can continue to work on your art. You're not losing if you're not only making money by your art. You have precious time on this earth to make art. So you're losing when you're not doing that because of lies your ego's telling you about making money.
I love that. And it comes down to it. I listened, you're bringing up another really great point. I listened to something, it was literally last night, Gary Vee. He's a big vlogger guy here in the city, entrepreneur. He says, there's 24 hours in the day. Most humans need 6 hours of sleep. That gives you 18 hours of being awake. You work for 9 of those hours. You commute one way each direction, say an hour. That's 11 hours. What are you doing with those? What's right there? And you're like, well, you're watching Netflix or you're on Facebook, but there's still time, even if you have a 9-hour workday with an hour commute in each direction, to create whatever it is you want. There's always enough time. Well, there's not always enough time, but in a day that you're alive, that you're awake today, you can do it. It's there.
And I think that when you choose to throw yourself into that time, it kind of magically stretches. I think if you are in a coffee shop and you bring your journal and you say, well, I only have 20 minutes. Let me just sit here and just start writing some stuff down. You can get a lot out of those 20 minutes. And all of a sudden, maybe your next thing is canceled because something has to pour out of you. Who knows? But I just feel like it's the commitment to making the time that's the hardest. And I as an artist, struggle with it every day. But I know that once I jump, I'm always caught.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. Andrea, your dream. Thank you for doing this.
Oh my gosh. I love this. I'm so excited you're doing this.
We can find you. I am too. I'm
These
not
are
going to let
such
that
important
statement go.
conversations. Don't let it go.
I'm not going to let that statement go.
It's really
I'm very
important,
excited too.
particularly for performing artists. I think it's a really important thing.
Yeah. I think it's really great. I'm just excited to see where this all heads. We can find you on Instagram and Twitter.
Yes.
Andrea Burns.
The Andrea Burns.
The Andrea Burns. And so we can contact you and find you there.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to give? Any last minute parting words of thoughts? Anything that come to mind? Ticketing information for a future gig?
No, I think right now, just calm down. Do you. More will be revealed.
More will be revealed. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello again. It's moi. If you're listening to the podcast on iTunes, please rate and review it. I love feedback and want to get a better idea of what everyone wants to hear more of. So, have a wonderful day. Ooh, also, you can follow this podcast on Instagram at _entertainmentx_. Ta-ta for now.